If you are a creative, chances are you have recently heard the words
community.
Community is the community.
Community.
When a word with such obvious meaning gets applied to so many different and varied things, it's sometimes hard to spot when a community is genuine. That's why I was so excited to sit down with Kev Arrieta of VACO Studio, who's been able to create and grow a community in the Miami area over the last 10 years. We talk about everything from starting his career in architecture to having to expand their business in uncomfortable circumstances. But before we get into this episode, make sure to like and subscribe to keep up with us as we continue to highlight new and impactful artists. And for the podcast listeners, we have an extended version of this episode that features almost 30 minutes of extra footage. So without further ado, here is Kevin Arrieta, Conversation. Alrighty, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Procrastination Radio Show. I'm your host, Iancomplex. Today we're back again for another amazing conversation with another amazing guest. Today with Kevin Arrieta. How are you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Yeah, feeling good. Just got back from Costa Rica. Feeling charged up for my retreat I just hosted. And yeah, man, feeling great. Excited to make this happen. We've been talking about this for a while, so feeling good.
We have been. I want to start this off by just telling you how appreciative I am for what you and all of VACO do, because I think it's funny. Even like a couple months ago on the show, having some conversations with other design homies who were talking about how there are like kind of few and far between people we can kind of connect to. And I think coming across your page and everything that y'all do, especially for South Florida, has been really just cool to see genuine community be fostered and just showing a really cool example of like full service creativity. Because I think as multidisciplinary artists, sometimes it's hard because you feel like you got to be pushed into a box or a certain place or a certain language of how you create. So it's been really cool to see you do your thing at such a high level. So I wanted to show my appreciation for you first off.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. It means a lot, brother.
I kind of want to know before we get into the business things, I want to know what your first brush-ins with creativity were. And then once we get into that, I want to find out what from that moment still drives you today to do what you do.
It all started with architecture school. I think it goes back to architecture. It's always been something that my parents kind of like got me into. They were into real estate. They'd flip homes and they would create in that way. My dad was into he was the more artist. My mom was more like the business. And just seeing them kind of build things out of nothing. My dad he's a traveler. He was I see him like Anthony Bourdain, the way he like moves and travels and like knows history. So at a young age, I traveled and he just like loved details. And growing up, he would, have a garden and like make his own pottery and like do his own thing. And anyways, that kind of inspired me to go into architecture school. And I think in architecture school is where it was my first form of art. I wasn't really into art in high school, but I knew I wanted architecture. And yeah, so through architecture school, I learned the whole Adobe suite. And then through there, I realized like, wow, I know Photoshop, I know Premiere, I know Illustrator, I know AutoCAD, I know all these different tools. And I'm like, why do I have to just be one thing? At an early stage, I started interning at freshman year. So right off the bat in college, I was interning at a firm, and I realized like it was completely different. At school, they're painting this picture of designing these buildings and being this architect and doing all these things. And then I would go, to my job, and I was just doing cookie cutter stuff for developments out here. What's the lowest budget thing for developers? And that was it. And I hated it. So at an early stage, I was like, I knew I wanted to be creative and a designer, but maybe not an architect. And that's when I ran into my co-founder, Nick. We started VACO back in freshman year, 2012. And we've just been kind of like going at it and testing. We didn't know what an agency was. We didn't know what marketing was. We were just like, ooh, I picked up a camera. I like that. He's an amazing illustrator. And that's where things started developing. So just like testing ideas.
Yeah, that idea of testing is so strong in your work. And I think even in the collaboration aspect of it, and I know as any collaboration goes, it's not always as smooth, but I think I would want to know very selfishly, like what about Nick and yourself made that combination that you were like, okay, I can see something with this. This is different.
I think Nick and I first clicked. He was Colombian and I was Colombian, and I think that was just like an immediate thing. And we had mutual friends like,
Yeah.
yo, y'all should know each other. So that was like the first thing. And
Right.
after that, honestly, Nick was just so talented. He's always been, man, I feel like out of everyone at school, I'm like, I got to be friends with you. We got to do something
Yeah.
no matter what, but like, let's be friends, let's kick it. And I think that's when I
Yeah.
started to like build my circle. And I'm like, I want to be around the best and things like that. So I was more into photography, but he was also just a really good drawer and illustrator. So just like we would just like teach each other stuff. I knew like 3D modeling. I taught him that early on, um,
Mm.
things like that. So we just kind of gravitated towards each other, and we just started playing around. He was from Tampa. He moved to Miami. I went to FIU, architecture school here, and yeah. So I was like local. He was from out of town, and we just immediately just like linked up and just started testing. So from like painting
Uh,
murals to photographing to whatever it was to doing branding, we're just like, let's just do it all. And yeah, we just kept saying yes to stuff. So
that's so cool because I think that energy even extends to now. Like I know you're doing some stuff with like Julian from the Brainwave, and I think it's just
hmm
cool hearing him talk about some of the stuff that y'all are doing and just how excited he gets. And I think that that energy to bring excitement to work is just so valuable for creatives and just for people. Just loving what you do is such a good thing. And I think just looking at your social and how you communicate, it's I feel like from what it seems, it's really important for you to take necessary rest and be with your family and be with your loved ones and not just be work, work, work. So where did you pick that up? And I think how do you in your creative kind of entrepreneurship find the space for that?
I'm not sure where I picked it up, but I just wanted to work with the homies, and I felt like I wanted to create a space that didn't feel like work, first and foremost, and I wanted to love what I was doing. I think something that I wanted to stick to from the beginning was like really curating the type of work we did as much as we could. Obviously, as a business, we have to run, and we say yes to certain things, but as much as we can, just trying to curate the projects we do or trying to track those things. And I think that created that environment. And family has just been a huge thing for me growing up. I think I grew up an only child, so I got a lot of love from my parents. And
Yeah.
maybe that just translates into like how I move and how I curate a team and how I love people on my team. Everyone becomes a brother. I love that. It's been a blessing and also one of the hardest things about running an agency with your friends because you just become a family. So one of the hardest thing has been like boundaries and things like that, and how do we, work together, have fun, but also do business together and have tough conversations. So it's an ongoing thing that I'm still getting better at. I think we all are.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the balance, and I think my girlfriend, I got into a relationship 2.5 years ago. My girlfriend Natalie, she's a yoga instructor, so I feel like having that wellness aspect into it. Um,
Mm.
creating a yoga studio at our space and like creating time and creating a space like even before we met, I knew I wanted like wellness. Working with
Yeah.
Lululemon a lot, they kind of inspired
Yeah.
that. So like when we came to design the space that we're in, it was always like, how do we create a photo studio, but can also be a wellness space that could also be a DJ set that could also be anything you want, an art
Yeah.
gallery. So I think it's just finding that balance of like, yeah, we could work, but we could also play. All at the
Right.
same time. So curating the people you're with, the things you're around, and trying to be around those things. So yeah, but I think a combination of my
That's
family, my girlfriend, and the brands I work with, I think they definitely inspire those things. So
yeah. I think with the brands you work with, I like some of the names and not even just the names, the energy and the creativity that y'all bring to these projects is super cool to see. And I wonder for you in that, how did you build the confidence in your creativity to one, become a leader, and then two, be able to pitch yourself and communicate with these brands on that level?
you got to fake it till you make it sometimes, and I think that's been something I've been doing for a minute. When we first got our space, I think that was back in shit, I don't even know, like 8 years ago. I forgot now, but it's
Yeah.
been a while. But we moved to Made at the Citadel. It's like it's a co-working space here in Little River. One of the first to kind of move into Little River, and it kind of really was a nursing ground for some of the best creatives now. So like groups like Prism Creative Group, Jenny Perez, Jeans, photographers. I specifically moved into that space because I knew these people were in that space. You know, I put myself and I forced myself into these situations. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to get a membership there because I know they have an office there, and I'll run into them.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I think it was just working with these people. I like doing business in a guerrilla type of approach, in a way that if I
Mm,
see a need, I'm not going to wait for them to hit me up. I'm going to create that opportunity. So an example of that is that I don't know if you've been to the Citadel. It's a food hall here in Little River.
yeah.
But leading up to it, I think it was like the grand opening got pushed back because of permits, and then they finally had their grand opening. It was a big thing. It was like the first food hall in Miami, and at the time, I lived like a block away from the studio we had. So I hit up our
Mm,
videographer at the time, and I'm like, "Yo, Juan, let's pull up. Don't wear your uniform. Let's just go shoot this guerrilla style. Leave before the
yeah.
event ends. Edit the whole thing and post it and tag all 20 restaurants that just opened. Tag everyone, tag the people I put on the party, every live artist,
Yeah.
everything." So we did that, and out of nowhere, like imagine just having an amazing edit within an hour of the event, and like they're
Yeah.
like, "Who the fuck is VACO
That's crazy.
Studio?" You know, and I, immediately,
Yeah.
like I was just like, everyone shared our video, everyone followed us, it just blew up, and then
Wow.
from there, immediately we just got hired as the content team for that group, and then our name just got
Wow.
recognized. Boom, you know, and then yeah, just getting tight to those people and those individuals, and just like I I over deliver, and I think that's a skill of mine. I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that enough, and I feel like it's really gotten me far. So getting close to people you want, over delivering, doing a lot of pro bono work, and being close to the people you want to be around. You know, um, and yeah, and at the time we also had a house like a block away from the Citadel, and at the
Yeah.
time I reached out to this really good photographer, Sebastian, this is JPEG, and then Brandon Cabral, another incredible graphic designer. I kind of curated that group to live in a home. And then we had a
Mm,
basketball court. We were a block away from the office. Like we had a mango
yeah.
tree. We had a beautiful home. Like we had everything, you know. And immediately, boom, I had a team, you know, that I could work with. They were
Wow.
5 years older than me. I was inspired by them. You know, I knew their circles were people I wanted to be close to. So just by curating that situation, I immediately created the world that I want to be around, inspired by them,
Mm,
leveling up who I was, my skills, and my network through that. And yeah, so it's very guerrilla. Everything was kind of like planned out, you know? Early on, I got that confidence to be like, yeah, I could do this. You know, I'm around these people, I'm getting hired. And yeah, I think that. And then early on, somehow I got BMW as one of my early clients, and that was pretty crazy. I think
just happened. Yeah.
the BMW project is, or story is crazy because I've always been one to share everything I do.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people are like, oh, why do you overshare this and that? It's like, I'm just promoting myself, you know, I'm just sharing my world. And
Right.
like, you know, if you're down, then
Right.
you'll hit me up. Anyways, an acquaintance and a friend from high school saw something on Facebook. He knew I was a photographer. He had BMW as his account. He was part of an agency called Octagon. He had BMW as account, and he's like, yo, we're going to Miami for Art Basel. This photographer's trying to, charge me 10K for like an event or two. Like, can you come lower? And I'm like,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, tell me what you need. I'll do it. They just needed photography, but I ended up pulling up with like two other photographers and a videographer for that same budget.
Come on.
Over delivered,
Come
and they
on.
were like, "What the fuck?" And then immediately, boom! The next month, I had a gig. I'm flying out to New York, to California. I'm
Wow.
hitting up people I
Wow.
know there. Ivan, that's now our photographer. Like he was in New York at the time, and yeah, we just started flying out and building relationships. And then I got tight with the creative director of BMW Group Culture. So then like we
Yeah.
got tight, and then it's just all relationships. You know, it's just like be a good person, do good work, and people. Brands are people at the end of the day.
Right.
Brands are people. People forget that, and it's just like
Yeah.
be a good person and be real. You know, so and that's it. People want to work with good people, and that's really it. But the confidence started there. I'm like, wow, BMW. It's like, oh shit, like if I can get BMW, I can get Toyota, I can get whatever, you know. So like, I think the combination of those things built me up and built up the name in a way that I could move in these circles and like not even have to show my portfolio. I had, you know, it's like work with BMW, like they're not going to ask me for shit, So it's like, I think moving, a lot of those things helped us out early on.
That's a beautiful way to put that. I think talking about the brands or people at the end of the day is a really big part, especially in today's kind of landscape of how people view social media, and just brands and branding and the whole process. I wonder, just to pick your brain really quickly, because I'm just very curious as to, from the time you get a project to the final execution and like the sending of assets, how long does a typical project take for you and your team? And when you do that, is it like you're gathering different people coming in? Are you like setting with the core team you have already? Like, what does that look like?
It depends. I think every project is different, and I think working in a no focus type of studio and multidisciplinary is tricky because you don't know. At one point, we had like a team of like 5 or 6 of us internal, and we were just going at it, going to the studio all the time. But then I realized early on, like if you want the best creatives on your team, it's sometimes hard to get everyone kind of like under one house. You have to give people freedom.
Yeah,
To do their own stuff because they have their own dreams and things like that. But it's like, how do you create a space that like we could all work together and be like the Avengers? Like we're all out there, and like if we get a project, we come back. So I want to provide the best product possible to the client at all times, and I realize that like if you have just one like core team, then you get stuck to one style. So if
yeah,
I'm able
that's
to
true.
work with different designers, I'm still loyal to my team, and I think loyalty is a big thing in VACO. But I know that this photographer is better for this, that photographer is better for this. This photographer likes these things. I'm not going to put someone in a situation that they don't want to shoot something. So I think of all these variables, and I know my team, and I'm kind of like the coach. So yeah, I have the all-star team, and I just put them in place.
Just moving around. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yeah,
That's amazing. You're just on
but
touch.
I'm working with high
No,
talent.
that's
I'm
pretty
not
sincere.
just not to say
Yeah,
anything, but I do pride myself in the team we've curated, and I think they're badass, all of them, and I have the highest respect for all of them. So, um, hell yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I think that I'm not sure if you said it here or in one of the other interviews I was checking out from you, but I think you were saying about just seeing everybody on the level, like just making sure that everybody has that respect, and just making sure that their inherent value is what shines through on each project. And I think that's just really, really commendable. And I think a good thing to remind artists, especially, I think sometimes the more traditional agency spaces, sometimes you just feel like, okay, I'm just production, or I'm just, you know, doing this other role that doesn't have much room to grow. But I think, again, what's super cool about just looking at what y'all do is just having that space and the options and range to do so many creative things. And um,
Yeah.
I think talking about like the legacy of what y'all do, and just wanted to address like the upcoming changes I know you're having to a few things in your business, and I kind of want to hear you talk about how you are working through those things, and just moving in different parts of that.
Yeah, like we spoke about, we're unfortunately moving our space. We've been in the current studio that I'm in right now for the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, like, typical Miami stuff, developers come in, and yeah, they're just kicking us out. We have like a year left on our lease, and they just bumped up the rent like over 60%.
Oh wow.
And it just becomes, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
from an agency point of view, we love community, and I think the reason why we created the space and got the size space and did everything we did was really to play and have a space to create, test,
Yeah.
welcome, open our doors. But it came to the point that it wasn't sustainable for us,
Yeah.
which hurts, but we're accepting it. I think, like everything, we've had a lot of like obstacles, and we overcome them all the time. And I think it's the way you kind of deal with them. But in the beginning, people are like sad and oh my god, and like I totally get that. But I'm also like, maybe this has to happen. I think we're forced, and like
Yeah.
we lived that chapter, and maybe it's like, what does it look like when Vaco's online? What does it look like when Vaco pops up in
Mm-hmm.
different places and it's not just like anchored in
Mm-hmm.
one place? Um, and I think it's pushing us to do more things that we want to do. Um, But yeah, we're moving in a month, so we're having our closing party this Saturday. We're collaborating with the Wolf of Tacos and Cipitios, and the DJ of A Tribe Called Quest, Jerobi White, is playing. So we just have like epic people part of this, and it shows you like what happens when community comes together. So I'm really excited to like have our grand finale here and celebrate everything we did. We pushed and squeezed everything out of the space, and it's so many different types of communities, from wellness to art, to music, to everything, workshops, and it's been beautiful, from starting a coffee shop to a yoga studio to like supporting artists for their for solo shows. um, it's been a fun ride. So
Yeah, man, that's amazing to hear, and I'm definitely gonna be sliding out to the event on Saturday. I think it's like you said, it's been a long time coming. We've been in communication over text and DMs and everything. So it's like it's fine. I'm finally glad I get to see this space in such a positive way, with everybody kind of celebrating and coming together. And I think, lastly, before we wrap up, I want to kind of know about, when you're kind of offline, when you're not working,
mhm.
what do you love to like unwind with? Like, what does a typical off day look like for you?
All right, an off day. Um, so I like being horizontal for a little
Mm,
bit. I like putting my feet up sometimes. Either it's at the beach, or
yeah,
it's in a beach cabana, or it's on my couch, whatever it is. And I just like to like do nothing. Sometimes I think it's like
that's real.
I play so much in my day to day, which I love. Sometimes it's just nice to enjoy nature. Either it's the beach or it's traveling. And doing things like that. So, and tapping into more like my personal work sometimes. So, like I think a lot sometimes the agency work keeps you like in a certain space, but then like I find time to like improve my photography or shoot more things that it's not work related. It's not. It's just passion focused. So yeah, I like to watch a lot of YouTube videos and play music, selection, and just play jams in the background and burn Palo Santo and burn
Yeah,
incense and create a vibe and cook with my girl and just do that. We both hustle a lot during the week, so weekends are sacred
yeah.
to us, especially Sundays. Um, and yeah, we just cook and vibe and jam out to music and things
What are
like
y'all
that.
eating? What's on the list for like the best thing y'all make together?
Um, Well, I'm like the sous chef. She's like the chef. She's Greek. My girlfriend's Greek, and she could whip it up in the
Okay.
kitchen. But she makes
Yeah.
these harissa meatballs and like a Greek salad with feta, and it's just a very like light meal, and it's just spicy and refreshing and all that good stuff. But that's like my go-to meal for sure.
Come on.
Yeah, yeah. So I gotta have you over for one of those. I got you, bro.
I know. Yeah. Now I gotta see what's up. Now it's
Yeah, that's the
guaranteed. No,
secret
but
sauce, man. That's the one that keeps things going.
that's the that's how you're running everything. That's how you're still going. It's
Hmm.
just it's the
Hmm.
South. It's the South. No, man. But again, just appreciate you. Appreciate everything that you're doing. Again, I think it's really important, the fact that you're talking about just like over delivering, even outside of the client context. I think just helping the communication of creatives, and I think sometimes artists don't want to show they care too much. So it's really cool seeing a group of people kind of just laying it all out there and just communicating as much as possible. That it's cool to like go 10 toes down and really, you know, put all that you have inside of what you do. So just really, really
For
thankful for
sure.
that.
For sure. Thank you, man. Yeah, I think that's our number one thing. We care. I think that, like you
Yeah.
said, we care for everyone we work with. We do truly see it as a partnership, and it's like a win-win. It's like you scratch my back, I scratch yours. It's not transactional. It's like how
Yeah.
can we both keep doing our thing, and you win and I win, and we can make this a long-term relationship. Um, and yeah, so I love that. And I think that's the best. That's when I'm the happiest. When things are flowing. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That, the flow, and then the salad. That's the combination.
The
The
flow and the
combination.
salad, yeah, yeah.
The,
And the scents. I have to be burning something. I got to be
yeah.
burning some type of incense. I have an incense coming out soon.
Oh,
That should be
word.
coming out like in 3 months. So I'm developing
Oh,
two
that's
scents.
fire.
inspired by the classes we do here. And yeah, man. So we're
See,
doing
that
that,
was
and
great.
excited to see what VACO online and digital
Yeah,
unfolds to be. We're gonna create products for creatives and mock-ups and fonts, and we really want to push into the product side, see things that we haven't seen out there, and yeah, get into that space. So we're excited to keep pushing community and sharing things, but in a different way.
yeah,
It will be
no,
physical, but it's just going to look different. It's still the
yeah,
same. So we're not closing. It's just
right.
we're moving around.
The
So
evolution, yes, yes, yes.
evolution. Yeah, yeah.
No, thank you so much again for sitting down and talking. I hope everybody who's watching enjoyed this. No matter where you are, if it's day, night, evening, stop procrastinating. Go get after your dreams because they're waiting for you. Have a good one. Peace, peace, peace.